Morning, everyone, and welcome back to day 2 of round 2 of the 2021 BNL Karting Series season, being held here at the fantastic Karting d'Espagne circuit in Mariembourg, in the Corvin region here in Belgium, 1,388 metres. Yesterday provided us with a lot of talking points, plenty of qualifying and plenty of racing action, with around 14 races yesterday. So looking back over yesterday, we had hardly any false starts. We had hardly any front fairing penalties in comparison with previous race meetings this year at the BNL, but we had multiple different race winners. So looking back over the day, Kai Rilets, definitely very much the case, has taken 2 wins and extends his lead in the championship after just 6 races here so far this weekend. And effectively, Tom Pappenberg has got the advantage going into today for one of 2 classes that are competing for a prestigious Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy ticket, with that event taking place between the 27th and the 31st of July at a place where legends are born, Le Mans Karting International Circuit, also known as Circuit Alain Prost, named after the former four-time Formula One world champion and also now special advisor to Alpine F1 team, Alain Prost. Matej Radenkovic has taken the advantage going into today, winning the pre-final and the final yesterday in Minimax. It's been one win apiece between the returning Greek Minotaur that is DJ Liveris and the current reigning and defending champion and current points leader Glenn Lamperais from Bouvin Power. It has been a clean sweep for DD2 Masters reigning and defending champion, and who is closing in on the points lead as we speak, Rue du Champion from PKS Competition. However, in senior Rotax, oh my goodness me, did we have a bit of a slobber knocker yesterday. Plenty of action, plenty of drama, and quite a few winners actually yesterday. 4 winners out of 6 heats. And coming into today, it was 2 wins apiece for Sean Butcher, 1 win apiece. Sean Butcher and Luca Lystra, and 1 win apiece between Max Stemmerdink and Paul Forquema. However, when the intermediate classification came through last night, reference who was going to be going through to today's pre-final and final, as for those that have been looking on the social media, seems like Dave Ritson has found a new hobby or new employment. I think he wants to become a farmer. He found a tractor on the local circuit last night, and that has definitely been doing the rounds on social media. Quite a big response on our social media channels. A big thank you to those that follow, support us, and also keep in touch with what is going on here at the BNL Karting Series. And effectively, we had 36 drivers that ended up qualifying for the pre-final and the final today. No second chance heat at 10:45. So we will have an elongated break between DD2 and DD2 Masters qualification and also Junior Rotax pre-final. So the 3 drivers unfortunately unable to make it through, and it was literally by nothing. Tern Schmidt was equal on points with Joris Schoens, but based on the countback on results, Joris Schoens went through. Also the 394 of Jente van Malderen and also the 387 of Robbie Storder rounded out the 39 strong drivers. But at the top of the classification, following a win and 2 seconds yesterday, Francis Paul Forquema will start the pre-final on pole ahead of Max Stemmerdink. And one of the more interesting bits of information, Lachlan Robinson from Dubai, representing the United Arab Emirates, his first time at this circuit, qualifies P3 in Group B yesterday, and he takes 2 seconds and a third. Now, if that's not a warning shot across the bow, I don't know what is. the Emirati could have... Well, actually, he's not an Emirati. He's based in the Emirates, but he's an Aussie, born in Britain, and also he's got Latvian heritage. That's a bit of a confusing mix, and I thought I had enough with nationalities so far. Luca Leistra, 2 wins from the Belgian improving power, but obviously the incident that saw him go off the circuit looks like it was a 4-way scrap for the lead, and yeah, Luca Leistra was definitely exiting stage right through probably no fault of his own. He took 2 wins yesterday in an 8th place finish. Milan Coppens is one to be factored in, as they are now clearing the grid for timed qualifying, so all mechanics now asked to vacate the dummy grid. Justin Pohlmann in 6th, Hugo Arendi, the Estonian, in 7th, ahead of Buzz Janssen. Erhard Turka, difficult day initially for Sean Butcher. Now, he ended up having a throttle cable issue in the first heat, which meant that we didn't really see the fact that possibly Sean Butcher, along with Luca Leistra, were both in the hot seat for winning 3 races yesterday. But they do say that they do say that unpredictability can be a wonderful thing, but it's not great if you're a racing driver and something like that happens. But we are literally moments away from qualifying. So we've got 4 qualifying sessions today, 5 minutes apiece. So Relets will look to assert his dominance on this championship. Very much in the early stages of what we saw last season in 2020. Now in 2021, obviously he didn't get the title last year, but he's now going to go for it again this year. And he's also leading the standings in the Rotax Max Euro Trophy. I know he's also been competing in chrono karting, I think, and also the Belgian Max Challenge. So a very, very packed campaign for that youngster. And also looking at the intermediate classification, well, the day 1 results for juniors went the way of Kai Rielets. Mathis Turlo now takes 2nd in the championship after 2 solid second place finishes yesterday. Farin Mega, top 3. Nick Gerhards, Enzo Ball, Joy Breedveld, a race winner this year, managed to finish in 9th, in 5th and in 6th yesterday. Casper Schormans has been pretty impressive. A solid set of results for the youngster, just 11 years of age. Finishing ahead of Vic Stevens, Olivier Jonkers, and Enzo van den Dinkenberg, who rounds out the top 10 positions. So again, it will be a 5-minute qualifying session. So we are seconds away from getting day 2 of the second round of the season. The halfway point has been reached. We now go into the second phase of this championship, and this is where it can all count, as they all now... Oh my goodness me. Of all the things to happen, everyone decides to bolt out of the pre-grid, and it causes problems. The likes of Enzo Boll, Fahin Mega get caught up in that. Casper Schormans. So that was like an accident on the M25 right there and then. But however, we get qualifying underway here at Karting d'Espagne. Rainfall hit the circuit literally after the final, the 6th and final senior road tax heat yesterday. So a big thank you to everyone. Well, who normally gives me the timetables? It's Farmer Dave. Sorry, Dave Ritson. That joke is going to stick with me for a very long time, and I did tell him on social media to stop scaring those scarecrows, because they're meant to be doing a job, those things. But here we go. Nick Gerhards will be the first to cross the line, and is being followed by the 293 of the Netherlands, Benjamin van Hees. Luke Neeston was 3rd out. So Kai Rielets is right at the tail end of the field. There's Farin Mega. Goes a little bit quicker than those that have already gone through, which included Nick Gerhard's, but we're not going to get a real representation of times until very, very shortly indeed. So Farin Mega rounded out the top 3 in the day result yesterday, and Gilles already goes nearly a tenth quicker than his teammate at JJ Racing. So the good thing is it's dry weather conditions here at Mariembourg. Air temperature 19 degrees Celsius. And here are a trio of Dams Racing Tony karts coming through. One of them will be probably the likes of, well, it looks like we've got Olivier Jonkers, Vic Stevens and Boluet working together. So the top time has already changed multiple times. I count 4 times. The likes of Farin Mega, Joik Breedveld, Enzo Bol, but now Mathis Turlo is in the whole shot area for pole position. 56.318 for the Dutch driver, the 242. Enzo Bol just over a tenth adrift. Casper Schormans 23 thousandths adrift off of second place with the 56.422. Then Kai Gilles jumps into the fray, and already, like we saw with his outlap, he's gone quickest, 56.202. Just over 2 minutes to go in the session. There are Jonkers, Loet, and probably more than likely Vic Stevens maybe in the middle of that. I've just spotted the 216. That is Olivier Jonkers at the front of that train. That is going to be the 269 of Vic Stevens. Farin Mega now goes provisional pole, quickly followed by Mathis Turlo. Casper Schormans now jumps into the 55s. A 55.890 for the 11-year-old running with Stampex Motorsports. Kviknoren rounds out the top 16. There's the top 19 covered by just over 1.25 seconds. That's rounded out by the 291 of Vasco Westolvens. Gilles goes to within 41 thousandths of Schormans, so Schormans has managed to learn a little bit from what happened yesterday and has got the jump on Gilles at the moment, but we still have just over 1 minute and 10 seconds of this session remaining. And this is where things get rather interesting. Will Kai Gilles be able to have another pole position to his credit this season? I think he's nigh on had a, well, I'm trying to remember off memory. I know yesterday he took pole. Genk, I think he did take pole in both races, but got unceremoniously thrown to one side. Joik Breedveld joins the party and goes 7/1000ths quicker than Mathis Turlo, who in turn was a tenth quicker than Casper Schormans. Gilles down in 5th place and has got a bit of time to find. He's got to find a tenth and a half to get himself up into provisional pole position. So there's the trio of Dams Racing karts going through into the left, the 90 left at 4, as Gilles does. He takes well. Oh, that's an. I've just seen that Gilles has just found nearly 4 tenths in that previous lap. That's impressive. That's impressive from the number 274 representing Belgium. Getting to the final throws of the session. There is Enzo Bol, I believe, in the 255, and he's got Mathis Turlo just behind. I think that's Enzo van den Dickenberg. Check us out for the session. Mega goes 4th quickest. Turlo 3rd. Casper Schormans 5th ahead of Enzo Bol. Enzo van den Dickenberg takes 7th ahead of Thies Dams. Well, Ralph van der Pever at 8th. Nick Gerhards is one I'm keeping my eyes on because he's currently 9th. He's about 8 tenths off of the pace that Gilles set on the previous lap. But that depends on whether they decide to cross the stripe. Mathias Ringgaard from Denmark takes 18th at the end of the session. And Gilles decides to hold back and just cruise across the line in comparison to his previous lap. But Gilles takes pole in the session once again for the 2nd day in a row. So Gilles, now here comes Nick Gerhards across the line, and I think he's got Benjamin Van Hees just behind him. And Gerhards goes 8th. We'll actually make that 9th now because that has changed. Benjamin Van Hees takes 7th, but it's Kai Gilles who, for the 2nd day in a row here at Mariembourg, takes provisional pole position here at Karting d'Espagne, and took it by close to nearly a quarter of a second. over Joip Breedveld. Matthijs Turlo in the 2:42 takes third ahead of Farin Mega. Kasper Schurmans rounds out the top 5, and they were covered by just 0.341 of a second. And Enzo Bol was just 30 thousandths off of the 2:44 from SP Motorsport. Benjamin Van Hees rounds out the top 7, ahead of Enzo van den Dickenberg. Nick Gerhardt, Ralf van der Pevert, rounding out the top 10, covered by 0.784 of a second. Rounding out the 20 strong, Thies Dams, Vic Stevens, Boluet, Luc Niesen, Olivier Jonkers, Rune de Broeke, Krik Knoren, Matthias Ringgaard, Vasco Westhovens, and Puck Gubbles. That is the top 20, and they were covered by just a fraction over 2 seconds. So, very, very dominant performance in qualifying by Kai Rilletz. He put himself on the right position on the circuit, and it paid dividends. So, he takes pole for the second day in a row here at Mariembourg. Now, next up, we turn our attention to Micromax Qualification. Now, this is one of 2 classes that this weekend will be battling for a ticket to the Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy at Le Mans, taking place, well, it starts taking place in around 23 days' time, 27th to the 31st of July at Le Mans in France. Now, coming into the halfway point as of yesterday, the conclusion of the action yesterday, we saw a fantastic battle in the pre-final yesterday between the number 30 of Boris Maximov and the number 48 of day 1 result winner, Tom Pappenberg in the 48. Saw some really good battles a bit further down the order as well, with the likes of Vic van Kampenhout and the number 24, who is currently 3rd on 29 points coming into today. Stig de Rademaker in 5th place on 23 points, just 4 behind Jente Moonen in the number 10, and also Lorenz de Kock in the number 27. So between Van Kampenhout, de Rademaker and de Kock, we had a really, really good battle in the final yesterday. And at the end of it all, it went to Vic van Kampenhout, who took a 4th and a 3rd yesterday. So puts the number 24 in contention. Obviously, the incident between Boris Maximov and Jente Moonen when they went through the first corner in the final yesterday afternoon, very much the case that these things do happen. You know, the red mist does come flying down, and all of a sudden you find yourself in an incident. But you know what? It's something for them to learn by. You know, you live and you learn as you go along. And in all honesty, there are just times when, you know, you've got to sort of pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go back into battle and do your level best to make sure it doesn't happen again, or you try and avoid an incident like that happening again. So just been informed that no front fairing penalties for junior road tax qualification, which is a good sign and a good start to the day. So temperatures a little bit lower than what we had yesterday, 19 degrees Celsius. And I sense a little bit of rain in the air, but as they say, we'll wait until it happens. So I don't always trust weather reports. And it's always better to be at the track because firsthand you have an understanding. And when the heavens opened yesterday, as we said on our social media, that it was raining cats and dogs, that was very much true. Very much true indeed. But the main thing is that now everyone is on Slick Mojo tyres. As you can see, some of the Minimax drivers just looking at the Micromax drivers who are preparing to go out for their 5-minute qualifying session. So Micromax qualifying starts in 3 minutes' time. Minimax, their qualification is at 10:15, and then we'll have DD2 and DD2 Masters at 10:30. And we will be running 10 races today, the first of which starts at 11:30 this morning, courtesy of Junior Road Tax. And we go Micromax, Minimax, DD2 and DD2 Masters, and then Senior Road Tax, and those that have qualified. So a warm welcome to everyone that is watching on the stream from home. Obviously, we still have these restrictions in place. But hopefully, in the not too distant future, we can welcome spectators back with open arms. We have had to abide by certain COVID-19 protocols for every single round. We've been doing this since last year. So obviously when Karting Genk reopened and then we brought back the kickoff, which ended up being the kickoff reboot 2.0. And we were one of the first championships that were ending up running. And we've stuck to these COVID-19 principles. Every single person has had a negative test, which has allowed them to enter the circuit, or they have been fully vaccinated, or they have recovered from COVID-19 and have the certification to prove it. So just under 15 seconds to go before we get qualifying underway. Might be the smallest grid, but they're big in heart, these Micromax drivers. So the green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid as they start making their way out onto the circuit. And looks like Stig de Rademaker, one of the first drivers to get out onto the track. And Matthijs Piesens in the number 99 also out there too. The good thing is that with having Micro and Minimax back on the calendar and also in the paddock, it really makes me happy to see these young drivers getting an opportunity. We knew that there was going to be a little bit of a fight on our hands, reference the kickoff and also the opening round of the season. But we have persevered. We do say that sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's very true of Micro and Minimax, and the way that we've been able to welcome them back, it's good to have these youngsters with us. They are Waiting for the first times to start coming in. It will start with Stig de Rademaker in the number 79, who puts in a 1 minute 5.631. Matthijs Piesens comes across the line, 1 minute 9.671. Obviously, this is their outlap. Let's just see who's at the back end of the field. Well, at the moment, it looks to be Laurens de Kock in the number 27, who comes out of the chicane. Gets the head down like a good one. And across the line, the number 27 goes up into P3 on a 1 minute 5.891. The good thing is, that's only the first lap. They're going to get another 2, maybe 3 laps in at a push and get their chance to shine here at Mariembourg. Into the 90 left goes Laurens de Kock in the number 27. Stig de Rademaker leads the way at the moment in the number 79. Keep your eyes on the likes of Jente Moonen, Boris Maximov and Tom Pappenberg, who you now, if you're watching from home, there they are on your screens. Pappenberg really getting into the slipstream coming out of the chicane. That's a good run from the 48. So let's see. Jente Moonen goes top. Then Lucas Dorder, but then it's Boris Maximov. And then Tom Pappenberg goes in there and literally pulls the rug from underneath Maximov's feet right there. 18 thousandths of a second quicker was the number 48. So top 7, rounded out by Stig de Rademaker, covered by just under 1.3 seconds. Now that Pappenberg has got past Boris Maximov, or has decided to hold fire and stay behind, well, yes, it looks to be the case. As you can see there's Boris Maximov going into the next left-hander. There's Tom Pappenberg, just leaving a little bit of a gap between. So what he can then do is start building momentum and start closing in. You can see now that Boris Maximov is going to start using a bit of momentum, a bit of slipstream here, through the chicane and across the start-finish line. So let's see if things do change a little bit more. Boris Maximov goes top, and goes top by a considerable margin. A 1 minute 2.945 for Boris Maximov on that particular occasion, 0.2 quicker than the previous effort from Tom Pappenberg. So we're into the final minute of the session, and those that will cross the line before the checkered flag falls will get another additional timed lap here in qualification. So it's Maximov, Pappenberg, Van Kampenhout, Stodder, de Rademaker, de Kock, Moonen and Piesens that round out the 8 strong. And the top 6 covered by 0.865 seconds as they are starting to jockey for position, and in the middle of all of that is Jente Moonen, and then you've got the number 12 of Lucas Dorder. Now this is not a race situation, I'm afraid. Everyone's trying to get the toe. They literally near on go 4 wide across the start-finish line. Tom Pappenberg now jumps to pole position and has got a healthy gap over Boris Maximov by just under 2.5 tenths of a second. So a pretty convincing lap. Checkered flag out for the session itself. So Laurens de Kock, I think, has only just made it through, or no, has actually got the checkered flag alongside his name, and effectively so far is 3rd, but we wait to see what happens with the likes of Boris Maximov and Tom Pappenberg, who is going to get the jump on the rest of the opposition. So this is the final try for all the drivers as Pappenberg gets past Jente Moonen going through into the right-hander that leads them onto the chicane. Who's going to get pole position for day 2 in Micromax here? And Pappenberg doesn't improve. Maximov doesn't improve, so Pappenberg takes provisional pole. Laurens de Kock in the number 27 is about 0.98 of a second behind Tom Pappenberg, but will number 27 have anything to say? Let's see. Comes across the line. Does not improve. So Tom Pappenberg takes pole position provisionally in timed qualifying here at Cartine d'Espagne for the second day of competition for Micromax. And this is going to be rather interesting because it's him versus Boris Maximov, I think, more than anything, for the ticket for the international trophy. So there's your results. Tom Pappenberg takes pole position by 0.244 of a second ahead of Lorenzo Koch. Vic van Kampenhout, Lucas Storder, Stig de Rijdenmaker, Jente Moonen, and Matthijs Piesens, rounding out the 8 strong drivers that were covered by 3.842 seconds, and with the top 4 covered by just under a second after that 5-minute qualifying session. And next up, very soon, in about 8 minutes' time, we will have Minimax out on the track, and there they are in the pre-grid, as you can see. So having a look back at yesterday, in terms of the standings. So it's Buvin Power's Matej Radenkovic that leads the way on a maximum score from yesterday, and also took pole position and fastest lap in both races, if memory serves me correctly. So it's what we would call in the United Kingdom the Grand Chelem, where you've done everything in your power and you've got every single accolade that day. Also, Max Sidursky, the 107, running on the Energy chassis, second coming into today with a total of 40 points. A solid successive run of second-place finishes for Sidursky. Mies Huben doesn't need to win an international trophy ticket. He won one back in the last weekend of May at the second round of the Rotax Max Euro Trophy, which was held at Adria Raceway in Italy. Lawrence Herboz and Dave Stevens round out the top 5. Stevens is also tied on points with Mats van Rooyen, but based on the results, Dave Stevens now is in 5th. Mats van Rooyen was level on points, 21. The pair 4 points ahead of Kaz Tobben, with Jake Menton rounding out the top 8. Switzerland's Tino Sidler rounds out the top 9 ahead of Mick Vandenberg, who's tied on points with Lars Lambers. That's 10th and 11th position respectively, with Ruben and Thomas Verheyen rounding out the 13-strong driver grid. And it won't be long before they get going and go out for their qualifying session. 5 minutes in total. Just informed for the second qualifying session in a row. No front fairing penalties, so that's a good start to the day for both sessions. Still have this plus one more to go, and then afterwards we will have DD2 and DD2 Masters. So 13 drivers waiting. And making sure that this is like effectively the calm before the storm here. But things will get a little bit stormier out on the racetrack, and I'm not talking about the weather. I am talking about what action we've got in store here today at Karting d'Espagne. Quite a lot of action always takes place in the BNL karting series, and this weekend, no exception whatsoever. So now the 3-minute board effectively has gone up and said, right, mechanics need to clear the pre-grid, which happens now. So this is where the drivers get to really reflect on what they need to do, what task is at hand. So just looking at the right-hand side of the screen, you've got the likes of Mies Huben, Jake Menton, Max Sidursky in there. Towards the front. Hopefully we won't have the traffic jam style situation that we had with the juniors when they went out for that qualifying session. Oh my goodness me. It's the first I've seen that in a long, long while indeed. There you can see the other camera located or honed in on the dummy grid. Don't forget, if you haven't already, follow us on social media. You can find us at BNL Karting Series on Facebook, at Rotax Belgium on Instagram, and at Karting BNL on Twitter. You can also head to bnlkartingseries.com, available both in Dutch and English language. It's like an eternity, isn't it, waiting for the whistle to blow and the green flag to be waved at the end of the pre-grid to let them go. But now you can see the drivers starting. They're just honing in on that clock, just waiting to get that chance to literally start the engines, get out onto the track and go qualifying. So qualifying, one of the more skilled arts that you need as a racing driver, and that helps your positioning in terms of where you qualify on the track itself. So there we go, local time 10:15. And Mies Huben is the first one. He manages to get the jump on Jake Menton coming out of the pre-grid. Max Sidursky just waiting, biding time. Tay Stevens at the far end on the right-hand side of his, well, in the middle of the centre in the picture. Goes Max Sidursky, gets the visor down. And here comes Tay Stevens. So it was a quintet of Dutch drivers that managed to get out of there first, and that was Mies Huben, followed by Jake Menton, Mats van Rooyen and Mick van den Berg. And we also had Kaz Tobben in the 134 also out there before Switzerland's Tino Sidler from JJ Racing. And they're already up to flying speed as we speak. It's one of the things you need to do in qualifying. You need to start getting some temperature into those tyres and also into the alloy wheels, just to help get a bit of purchase on the circuit, and then you can go absolutely flat out as they bury the throttles down hard coming out of the chicane. Slipstreaming is going to be rather crucial. As Tino Sidler up the inside of Kaz Tobin, and actually goes ahead in terms of the qualifying side of things. But Mies Houben sets the initial benchmark, a 1 minute 2.843 for Mies Houben, and that is 0.142 ahead of Mats van Rooyen. But then here comes Max Swiderski and absolutely blitzes the field. A 1 minute 1.936 for the youngster, the 107 from the Netherlands. So an epic lap there from Mad Max Swiderski. But will the likes of Matej Radenkovic, and as I say that, Radenkovic goes to within 0.51 of a second behind Swiderski. So that lap from Swiderski was a bit on the wild side. But then it's all starting to change, because we're going into the sub 61 second bracket. Firstly, Mies Houben takes that honour with the 1 minute 0.0859, and then 19,000 slower was Laurens Herbols. But Max Swiderski, out of nowhere, has just improved his previous lap time by, get this, well over 1.6 seconds, a 1 minute 0.375. Swiderski gunning for provisional pole, and Radenkovic trying to respond and does so in kind. A 0.025 advantage for Swiderski as we head into the last 2 minutes of qualifying. Top 9 covered by just over 9/10, and they're rounded out by Ruben Verheyen from Belgium in the 1:88. 1 minute and 45 seconds on the clock. Houben improves. Kaz Tobin improves and goes 3/1000ths quicker than Mies Houben. Houben with a 1 minute 0.477 second lap time. Mechanic by Sophie Lansik. Never see those two apart on a racetrack whenever Mies goes racing. Sophie herself used to actually race quite a bit as well in karting. And she's now more of a mechanic these days, but works very, very well with Mies Houben. Those two are quite a good pairing. And you can see quite a few other drivers. Matej Radenkovic now hits his stride with just over a minute to go on the clock, and goes 28,000ths of a second quicker than Max Swiderski. So a lot closer than what it was yesterday. Reference pole position here in Minimax. We're fast approaching the conclusion of the session. These drivers that are about to cross the line now will get another timed lap. That includes Mies Houben. Now, does Houben improve? He goes up into P3. But it's going to be not enough at the moment, because Swiderski and Radenkovic are on absolutely blistering pace. The cooler conditions seeming to help a little bit here today, because Radenkovic and Swiderski covered by just 28,000ths of a second as we hit the last 30 on the clock, as the DD2 and DD2 Masters drivers make their way into the dummy grid. So Tay Stevens goes ahead of Mats van Rooyen by 20,000ths of a second and gets another flying lap gets another flying lap chance here in qualification. So the time has struck 0. That is it for the session. So we wait with bated breath. The likes of Radenkovic. Radenkovic has gone sub 60 seconds on his penultimate lap. He's still got one in the bag, but I'm waiting for Swiderski to cross the line. What has Swiderski got in the tank? Mies Houben can only muster as much as 3rd place. Kaz Tobin was 4th, but then all of a sudden Laurens Herbols decides to jump in. Tino Sidler, 6th. Mats van Rooyen, 7th. Swiderski, not enough. He can't get close. He couldn't get anywhere closer than just over 1/10 of a second, 0.137 at the end of that session. But Radenkovic has been on a flyer all weekend long. And is very well, decides to lift his finger off the trigger, so to speak. So the good thing is Radenkovic takes pole in that session and takes it by 0.137 ahead of Max Swiderski. Mies Houben makes it a second Dutch driver in the top 3. But his pace, 0.321 off of Max Siderski and over 4.5 tenths off of Mateo Radenkovic. Lawrence Herbose rounds out the top 4 with Tay Stevens, Kaz Tobben, Tino Sidler, Mats van Rooyen, Jake Menton and Lars Lambers rounding out the top 10, covered by literally 1,000 shy of a second after that 5-minute qualifying session. Ruben Verheyen, Mick van den Berg and Thomas Verheyen rounding out the 13 that qualified in that session. So in about 9 minutes' time, we're about to head to our final qualifying session of the day and of the weekend. It's DD2 and DD2 Masters here at Karting d'Espagne. So I'll have a brief look at So looking at the results from yesterday. Well, it's Greece's DJ Liveris that leads the way in this round of the championship. I think, if memory serves me correctly, this is a one-off for Liveris, who at the moment has a win and a second place so far this weekend. Glenn Van Parijs, the current points leader, extends his championship lead and has 41 points to his credit. A third and a first yesterday. Third place, France's Paulo Besoncenet rounds out the top 3. 29 points for the 405 from KMD, running on the Sodicat chassis. And yesterday, it was a second place in the pre-final. Then in final on day 1 yesterday, it was 9 points. So that effectively makes it an 8th place finish for Paulo Besoncenet. Kasper Bielecki took a 5th and Besoncenet was a 7th place finish on the final yesterday. Kasper Bielecki, it was a 5th and a 3rd yesterday. Mick Knowlton, 2 solid 4th place finishes for the 403 from the Netherlands. Ragnar Virus had 9 and 11 points in the respective finals, so 20 points in total for the Estonian. David Maslakovic, 18 points, 2 ahead of Zana Shriblak, who rounds out the top 8. Jordi Colin and Maxime Deriche round out the top 10 places in there, and they are covered by 32 points. Yannick Gussens, Henry Ayres, Dan Zopfi, and Jordi Klebel round out the 14 strong in DD2. DD2 Masters, it's been a double victory so far for the reigning and defending champion, Rudy Champion. 50 points to his credit, 10 ahead of the current points leader and 2019 champion in this very class and also championship, and at the same season, Belgian Max Challenge. Carl Clebort rounds out the top 2. Good solid performances from Jonathan Wimore from France this time around. A 4th in the pre-final and a 3rd in the final yesterday. Tom Dessert had a 3rd in the first final, in the pre-final, and then it was 5th. Now, obviously, he was running a little bit higher up than that, but a front-fairing penalty, unfortunately, put the 530 from GKS Lemons Power a little bit further down the order than he would have liked. These things do happen. It's part and parcel of racing. Bruno Dos Santos rounds out the top 5 ahead of Pritzai, Christoph Adams, and it has been a weekend of big highs and big lows for Slavomir Moransky, the Polish driver from 46 team. Pole position yesterday, but his dramas were in both races, and he didn't even make the completion of the first lap in the final yesterday. A real shame for Moransky, but that is part and parcel of racing. And some of the drivers are already putting their race helmets on. You can see the likes of Henry Ayres and Glenn Van Parijs having a bit of a chin wag. Now they start to get ready. Some drivers are already sitting in the carts ready to go. So you can see that some of them are chomping at the bit. So now the grid is being cleared. So this is our final qualifying session of the weekend. Yesterday, pole position was in DD2 was decided by 9 1/1000ths of a second. And your pole sitter yesterday is currently the person that actually is leading the weekend results so far, DJ Livaris from Greece. Runner-up in the championship 2019. And he actually held the lead in the standings, leaving Mariembourg 2 years ago and heading over to Karting Genk for the final round of the championship. And in terms of the final round for us here at the BNL Karting Series, it will be the 9th and the 10th of October. So we'll have a little bit of a wait, effectively just shy of 3 months and a week. But as they say, it's worth the wait. You always save the best things until last, and that's always true of a season finale. But we're getting into the last few seconds before we get this qualifying session underway. Christoph Adams still hasn't got his helmet on, and we've got 30 seconds to go before they actually release them. So you better hurry up and get that. There we go. On cue. I think the word manana could be very well described about Christoph Adams' approach to getting himself ready. It's always at the last minute. So the gloves will be on. Right. So there we go, green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid. And we get qualifying underway for DD2 and DD2 Masters for the final time here at Karting d'Espagne. And one of the last drivers to leave the pre-grid at the moment, well, Paulo Besoncenet has decided to leave it until a little bit later, and he's actually the last of the 22 drivers over. Get out there on the circuit, and already they're jockeying for position. So there is a slight amount of rainfall, but the drivers are out on slicks. If it's the slightest of showers, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Reference the the adhesion that these Mojo D5 tyres will have. But with a slight shower in the air, that can change things ever so slightly, but probably not by much. They'll still be up to full qualifying speed here at Mariembourg. So Jonathan Wimore is the fastest driver out there. And that's a DD2 Masters driver. Yannick Gersens, DJ Liveris, Rudy Champion, Jordi Colin. That's the top 5. 2 DD2 Masters drivers in the top 5. And actually, funny enough, both representing France. Champion and Wimore had a really good run yesterday. Ended up being a French 1-2 in the DD2 Masters finale. Now we're going to see the pace ramped up a little bit more here in qualification. 3 minutes on the timer, still there. Dan Zotfi quickly goes to the top of the timesheets. Then it was quickly after that, Zona Shriblak. DJ Liveris held on to provisional pole for about a second or two. And then Glenn Van Parijs decided to jump in. Well, he went up to second before David Maslakovic decided to jump up. But then here comes Paulo Besson today by 1/1000th. Quicker than the Birla Baltics madman that is Ragnar Vidas from Estonia. A 54.601. I thought it wasn't going to be... and that shower has literally, thank you to Dave Ritson, my on-the-ground weatherman at the circuit, literally the shower has gone into... well, it's basically been part of weather history. So there we go. And you can just see... the top 3 drivers covered by nothing. But Liveris goes provisional pole, and he's got there by an absolute country mile. 54.356 from the Greek driver. Mick Knowlton up into P7. Rudy Champion at the moment holds on to provisional DD2 Masters pole. Paulo Besson gets to within 1/100th of his best lap time. But Liveris is absolutely storming his way towards a second pole position. So who'd have thought it? First time since the Greek National Championship in 2017 was when DJ Liveris actually took a pole position, and he scored one yesterday. Can he do the double here on Sunday morning at Mariembourg? Well, he's got a really good tow from the kart in front as he comes out of the chicane. Will Liveris improve? He doesn't on that particular time, but there's just over a minute to go. Besson as Van Parijs now starts getting quicker, and he's just put in a 54.537 as the defending champion. So Liveris has done, well, he's got to wait until the timer hits 0 and the checkered flag comes out, because I'm sure that if he does have an opportunity of celebrating like he celebrated his pre-final victory yesterday, when he knows that he's got pole position, I'm sure that he will be very, very happy with that one. Into the last 20 or so seconds in the session, and the last qualifying session here for round 2 of the season. And you've got the likes of Jordi Klebold. There's Rudy Champion, the 5.44 from France. He's currently 8th, but he is effectively fastest. Liveris does not improve, but he gets past one of the Sheepers Racing karts. That was just behind. Checkered is out for the session, and I think Liveris has decided he's actually aborted that lap. I just saw him slow between turns 3 and 4, and DJ Liveris, I think, pretty much has got it in the bag, but it's just dependent on Van Parijs. Besson won't get provisional pole, but he gets to within 64 thousandths off of Glenn Van Parijs at the end of it all. Bruno Dos Santos, 20th. Pritsai, 22nd. Now, Moransky finds himself in 3rd place so far, but a lot of drivers now pulling out of the session. Rudy Champion effectively takes provisional pole for DD2 Masters, but by nearly 0.2 of a second. DJ Liveris from Greece for Dams Racing has just taken a second pole position on the bounce. He's done the double in qualifying. Now let's see if he can do something about it in the races. And there is Paolo Besancenet, third overall, but Liveris takes a second pole in a row here at Mariembourg. Glenn Van Parijs takes second. Paolo Besancenet just making his way into Parc Fermé takes third. Ragnar Virus in fourth, ahead of David Maslakowicz from Poland, who rounds out the top five. They were covered by 0.264 of a second. And he was 7 thousandths quicker than the Netherlands' Jordi Collen, who in turn was 56 thousandths quicker than Mick Knowlton. Rudy Champion takes DD2 Masters pole, and what's more, he's 8th on the grid for the first of two races today. Zana Shriblack in 9th, Dan Zotfi in 10th, covered by just under 4/10 of a second. Kasper Bielecki 11th, Kyle Klibort de Bakker 2nd in DD2 Masters qualification, 12th on the grid. Janne Gustens 13th, ahead of DD2 Masters driver Slavomir Moransky, who in 14th rounds out the top three in that class. Henry Ayres, another solid qualifying session for the Brits, 15th from the 4:29 for KR Sport, ahead of Jordi Klibort, Maxime Derich, Tom Dessert, Christoph Adams, Bruno Dos Santos, Jonathan Wimmo, and Pritz Sai round out the 22-strong grid. So that is it for qualification. And we have a little bit of a lengthy break. Join us just before 11:30 local time here at Mariembourg as we kickstart the business end of round 2 of the 2021 BNL karting series here at Karting des Fagnes in Mariembourg.
aufgefallen.
Wenn du das Display schließt.
Musst du dir ziehen, ne?
Ja, nein, musst du nicht. Guck, wir machen das jetzt anders. So. Ist okay? Perfekt.
Maar das geht umlagen.
Vielleicht ein bisschen noch nach unten.
So the weather has dramatically turned since we got qualifying completed. There has been heavy rainfall, the wind has picked up, but we still carry on whatever the weather here at the BNL Karting Series. So the first pre-final of the day, and we head to Junior Rotax. Let's have a look at the starting grid. So after pole position yesterday, he's done it again. Kai Rillet starts from pole for the pre-final and will be joined by Joip Breedveld in the 205. So in all JJ Racing front row, Mathis Turlo and Fahin Mega ran out the top two rows with Casper Schomans and Enzo Bol on row 3. Benjamin Van Hees and Enzo van den Dickenberg round out the top 4 rows with Nick Gerhards and Ralph van der Pevert rounding out the top 10 as the spray and the rainfall is absolutely biblical. This is going to be a tough test for all drivers. Rounding out the 20 strongest, Thies Dams, Vic Stevens, Bolouet, Luke Neeson, Olivier Jonkers, Rooney de Bruyker, Krik Knoren, Matthias Ringard, Vasco Westhovens and Puck Gubbles. That is your 20 strong grid. 13 minutes on the clock, plus an additional lap. And this is going to be tough for everybody at the circuit. You can see the amount of spray that is being kicked back by the wet weather Mojo tyres that are shorn on these karts. And it is coming down rather heavily. So the humidity is up. And the tension now increases. Humidity is now raised to around 77%. Highs of around 21 degrees Celsius here today. Visibility is going to be at a premium on this 1,388 metre circuit here at Mariembourg in Belgium as we truly kickstart the second half of the season. So there is Kai Rillet at the front of the field. We'll wait for Joip Breedveld to join alongside, which will be happening shortly. So 20 drivers set to go into battle here at Mariembourg for the pre-final here on day 2. Rillet looks to extend his championship lead even further. Fahin Mega looking to get into the top 3 as we now head into the tram lines for the first time here today. Umbrellas are up, people are still watching as we go lights out here in the pre-final as there's an absolute deluge. There's standing water on the inside of turn 1 that is looking rather treacherous as there is a gaggle of around 6 or 7 carts going through into turn 2. It's 3 abreast at some points, but Kai Rillet, through the fact of the matter that he got pole position, he now starts to get away. Mathis Turlo up into second position. A little bit further down the order, you can just see how difficult it's going to be for those drivers behind. Come the end of this race. So there is a bit more of a darkness tinge in the air as well with the grey clouds that came over, having seen it unfold on the live stream over the past 45 minutes or so before we came back for racing. As you can see, going under the braking zone, they're going sideways. Because literally, you're pushing the brake down in order to get that cart to bite onto the tarmac and get through. But at the back end, normally will step out, depending, as some drivers by this has a 1.5 second advantage ahead of Mathis Turlo. Casper Schomans has made his way up into third place and all trying to get into the thick of the action. Nick Gerhards goes side by side with the German, and there's a bit of a squeeze put on going through into the left-hander at turn 4. But they both managed to make it through, and that's allowed Enzo Bol to see the amount of water that's actually, when they're going through certain parts of the circuit, sometimes the front bumper will actually, as we've got yellow flags going through in towards turn 6, so it looks like someone's had a bit of an off-track excursion. There is so much standing water on this track. It was declared a wet race around half an hour ago when the rain started coming down. So no at all surprised that Thomas Leiner, our race director, opted to go for the better decision, and I have to credit him well with doing that. Very, very well experienced in his own right. But Kai Gillerts now continues to start leading the field, and his gap now, after 2 laps, is nigh on double to nearly 3 seconds. Rune de Bruyker unfortunately out, and there's been a little bit of a drama for Enzo Bol, who's dropped all the way down outside of the top 18, or he's dropped to stone dead last, 19th at the moment, as there is a 3-way scrap here. Joik Briefeld has got Nick Gerhards right up his back bumper, and I don't mean that just figuratively, I meant nigh on literally, is that Gerhards trying to go up the inside. Briefeld going through turn 4, I think he's got the move done, but Farin Mega's trying to make it 3 wide. Oh my goodness me, the German decided to pounce, and he's got real good purchase in that Xpree chassis. Farin Mega nearly could have had the pair of them right there and then on the exit of turn number 4. My goodness me. The wet weather brings that air of unpredictability, and that's exactly what we've seen. So the drivers have got to really watch themselves, especially in the braking zones. And the reason being is that if you cave in that front bumper, it's an automatic 5-second time penalty post-race, and no driver wants to have that happen. So coming up to 9 minutes and 20 seconds plus an additional lap still remaining. There is, I think I spotted, it's either Ralf van der Pevert or Enzo van den Dickenberg, and it looks like that is Casper Schommans who's actually ahead. Well, it's actually Luke Neeson. Enzo Bol has now effectively de facto retired from this race. A real shame for the 255. He was at the sharper end of things. There's standing water going into turn 2. Oh, and one of the drivers had the good foresight to just stay away from the apex. As oh, we've got someone spun around. Now, who is that? That looks to be Nick Gerhardt. Oh! Do not tell me that that was a rejoin. Oh, my goodness. Please, please, please. Oh, my goodness me. Trying to rejoin, and then you have 2 carts coming along at full racing speed. And they were literally, whoever that was, they were side by side. Let's just hope that everything's all sorted itself out there, because this is getting dangerous right now. As you can see, they're starting to use the curbs. A bit of curb hopping going on, and one of them, I think it was Casper Schommans that I just saw having to use the curb to just settle the cart a little bit. As you can just see how much this standing water, that, I mean, look at the chicane. It's absolutely significantly saturated, as are the camera lenses on the cameras being used by our camera crew out there. A big thank you to them for braving the weathers along with the marshals. So as you can just see, the way that Matthias Turlo just went through that standing water and then skidded onto the curb, that is very, very dangerous indeed. Well, dangerous in terms of how they're having to control the carts, because the first thing that these drivers will have a definitively very, very tense upper body after this, because you're wrestling with that steering wheel. So you're using a combination of the triceps, the biceps, the forearms, and also your shoulder muscles as well. Plus, it's also working your abdomen, your core, which is one of the key points as a racing driver to maintain. As again, yellow flags going through the right-hand sweeper at turn 6. As, oh, we've had a couple of carts off, and they've ended up on the grass. So these weather conditions are really, really proving to be trickier as the race now hits the halfway point in about 20 seconds or so. This is difficult, to say the very least. There's quite a few other words which might be considered as industrial language that I can't pronounce, or I can't state, because that's how difficult it's become. The rain is intensifying, the wind has picked up again, and we still have 6.5 minutes to go in this race, plus an additional lap. Kai Gillerts, his lead over Matthias Turlo, and that was Nick so Nick Gerhards and Boluet both out. Oh my goodness, it has changed the race dynamically, and it's also changed a few championship campaigns in the process. I mean, we'll keep an eye on Kai Gillerts for the moment, but certain parts on the circuit Look at the amount of standing water he's having to circumnavigate. I mean, like, it's just not rain. It's not just rainfall. It's a deluge. It is literally coming down significantly. So around about 50 millimetres of rain has been predicted in terms of the downpour. And Rillertz, because he's out front, he now knows that he's just doing his own race. He's not worrying about what's happening behind. He's just focusing on the job ahead. And now you can see, look, I mean, just what... I'm going to take this from a road-going perspective. You go through a big puddle, you know, you can feel it unsettle the car. And sometimes it will pull it across. So if it's towards the inside edge of the road, then it will be a case that it will pull the car in the corresponding direction. But Rillertz is still pushing, and he has got, you know, we're into the 1:14 now. So forget the times that we were setting in qualifying and the races yesterday. It's a completely different proposition. As now Mathis Turlo has lost out to Joip Breedveld. We've got another couple of drivers down the order. Benjamin Van Hees down in 16th and has parked the car on lap number 5. We're now on lap 7 as far as this is for P3. Mega waiting to see what happens with the 242 as Mathis Turlo gets a really bad run. He loses a bit of momentum coming through into the chicane, and Farin Mega quickly on the throttle to try and capitalise. And they go through turn 1. Farin Mega looking up the inside. Oh, and he went through a big splash puddle on the inside of the exit of turn 1. Through turn 2, Mathis Turlo finds the standing water puddles. And Farin Mega now as, another cart off. That looks to be the 2. Now, who is that? That's Puck Gubbles in the 288. So Puck Gubbles trying to get the cart back onto the circuit. And now Farin Mega really fancies his chances going through to the far part of the circuit. They've just gone through turn 5 into turn 6. Turlo goes to the inside. Farin Mega carries the momentum through to get a really good run out of the corner. And that's a good tactic to use in these adverse weather conditions. You don't use always the conventional racing line, especially when you're trying to get past somebody else in front. So the battle for P3 really heating up with just over 3.25 minutes plus an additional lap. And look at the run, Farin Mega. He absolutely steamrolled up the inside of Mathis Turlo. Oh my goodness, that was inspired. He knew where to pick his spot. And Mathis Turlo, and looks like they've called the race. They've called the race early. The weather has gotten really, really bad out there. So they've decided to call the race early with 10 minutes completed. So Rillertz takes the victory. Joip Breedveld takes second. Farin Mega takes third. Mathis Turlo, Kasper Schormans, Luke Neeson, Vic Stevens and Olivier Jonkers have crossed the line. Matthias Ringgaard started down in 18th, finished in 9th. Vasco Westhovens in 10th. Thies Dams in 11th. Knoren takes 12th. But you can just see how difficult it is out there. I think that's a very, very wise call there to call the checkered. But Kai Rillertz, it's 3 from 3 this weekend. And you know what? Above all else, it's the JJ Racing top 3 with Joip Breedveld and Farin Mega. And I'm sure that the drivers will be very relieved in some respects. So Rillertz takes the victory after a shortened encounter. We went 10 minutes into that race, and then they called out the checkered flag. A very, very wise call, I think, with these adverse conditions. Joip Breedveld in second, Farin Mega, Mathis Turlo, Kasper Schormans running at the top 5. Luke Neesons, Vic Stevens, Olivier Jonkers, Matthias Ringgaard, Vasco Westhovens ran at the top 10. Thies Dams, Krik Knoren, Enzo van den Dickenberg, Ralf van der Pevert, Puck Gubbles would be the last of the drivers now getting to 8 laps completed, but Puck Gubbles actually ended up off the track. Benjamin Van Hees in 16th, retiring on lap 4, with Nick Gerhards, Boluet on lap 3, Enzo Bol and Rune de Broeke unfortunately not finishing the race.
Stop. Stop.
So we return back to racing, and this time after a shorter race for Junior Rotax, we now head into Micromax for their third and penultimate race. It's the pre-final on day 2. Let's have a look at the starting grid. So Tom Pappenberg taking pole position this morning, starts again on pole position here in the pre-final. Alongside will be a countryman, Boris Maximov in the number 30. And one of the other things here is that Lorenz de Kock is in 3rd place. Alongside we'll have Vic van Kampenhout in the number 24. Lucas Dorder in the number 12 and Stig de Rademacher in the number 79 ran out the top 6. And 7th on the grid, Jente Moonen is out. That's Matthijs Piesens not showing on the timing screens at this particular juncture. So what has happened is effectively that we look to have 7 of the 8 drivers here in this race. The weather conditions still rather difficult. This is going to test the drivers. So slippery surface flags are out and being waved by the marshals. Rain is still coming down. I mean, you can see it going into turn 1 on the right-hand side of the, just going past the start-finish line, and also at multiple different parts on the circuit. It is getting very, very saturated indeed. So now we get towards the lights going out for the first time for Micromax here today. Tom Pappenberg has 2 wins so far this weekend. Can Boris Maximov break the Pappenberg winning streak? Or maybe, will the weather conditions be that welcome equaliser that Boris Maximov has been relishing? Well, we are soon about to find out. And there is Matthijs Piesens, who is actually at the end of the pre-grid, so whether there might have been a technical issue that needed to be resolved, it's not easy to sort that out in wet weather conditions as well. So it looks like they're getting the engine fired up, which it is the case. So once they've gone through the start phase, Matthijs Piesens will be released from the pre-grid. So almost time to get the Micromax drivers racing. After this, one more race will decide who gets the international trophy ticket for Le Mans. But at the moment, it's 2 wins to Pappenberg, 2 second places for Maximov. Can the number 30 come back, get the number 48? Into the tram lines we go for Micromax pre-final here on day 2. Looks to be a pretty good start as they have got things going. And Maximov does the old switcheroo in the first corner. He went wide going into turn 1 and absolutely mugged Tom Pappenberg. But Pappenberg clashes with him. Oh, they're off the track. And there's a bit of a clash a little bit further back as well. And that could possibly be maybe Stig de Rademacher that might have been turned around there. Not too sure. But Pappenberg has managed to get back into first position. But there was some contact up and down the field. Going through into turn 2, not easy in these conditions. But battle for second really heating up. But one of the biggest things here is that Boris Maximov finds himself down in 4th position and is looking to get past and try and close in. So Pappenberg and Maximov. Pappenberg went for the move on turn 2. And some things are easier said than done. And in these wet weather conditions, that very much is the case in point here today. And there is a move. There's an attempt for second place, and that has now transpired. So Lucas Tordera to manage to get his way up into second position. But you can see there that Boris Maximov is not giving up. Papenburg leads after the first lap. And the lead is 1.649 seconds. After just one single solitary lap. That can just show you how quickly a race can be turned upside down and on its head and shaken around like a NutriBullet blender. But Maximov now hits the standing water puddles on the outside of the exit of turn number 3. So Boris Maximov, a very, very lucky individual there and then, but has managed to get himself up towards the sharper end of the field. And that will be more than likely Stig de Redemeter, I think, that might be up into that position. Lorenz de Kock actually finds himself in second place behind Tom Papenburg. So 10.5 minutes still to go, plus an additional lap. Papenburg continues to lead the race. Maximov down in 5th place. Lucas Tordera rounding out the top 5 as there is a change for position. I think it was Vic van Kampenhout making a move on Jent Moonen. They come across the line. Lorenz de Kock. It is Stig de Redemeter that rounds out the top 3. Boris Maximov in 4th. Lucas Tordera. Vic van Kampenhout gets past Jent Moonen for 7th place. And Van Kampenhout looking for that move on the number 12 of Lucas Tordera. Tordera runs wide at turn 3. Van Kampenhout up the inside and goes nigh on wheel to wheel, side pod to side pod, and through the 90 left at turn 4. Van Kampenhout gets the move done, and it looked like Tordera had a traction issue coming out of the 90 left, and that is going to drop Tordera down into the clutches of the number 10 of Jent Moonen. Lorenz de Kock is actually really reveling in these wet weather conditions. The number 27 is only 1.1 seconds. No, hang on a second. He's right on the back bumper. Oh, my goodness me. Now, Tom Papenburg must have had an absolute howler of a previous tour, because Lorenz de Kock actually took quite a little bit of time out of him. So I'm wondering, has Papenburg made a bit of an error, as Lorenz de Kock nearly drops the left rear wheel onto the dirty, wet, sodden grass. The gap was 1.1 seconds last time around. It's now 0.563. And Lorenz de Kock could be a little bit closer. Vic van Kampenhout is the fastest driver out on the track, closing in on Boris Maximov, and was just under half a second behind the number 30. So 8 minutes and 15. Here goes the move for the lead. Lorenz de Kock up the inside through turn 5. The right-hander on Tom Papenburg. So Lorenz de Kock started a little bit further down towards he was in the second half of the grid. The good thing is that Papenburg has got 2 victories, and the person that Papenburg is more concentrating on in terms of positioning is Boris Maximov, who still sits in 4th position and is hemorrhaging time at the moment. Lorenz de Kock at the moment has hit the front of the field and has started to pull away. Oh, now this is interesting. Stig de Redemeter is not too across the line to start lap number 5. And de Kock actually has got really good pace, 1 minute 23.371. And there's going to be a move here. That will be Vic van Kampenhout on the inside of Boris Maximov through turn 1. So the number 24 gets the job done nice and swiftly. As all standing water puddle and then some. That really, I think, caught Boris Maximov a bit by surprise there. The number 30 now drops into 4th position. So Maximov needs to start using unconventional racing lines in order to close in on the number 24 of Vic van Kampenhout just up ahead. Lucas Stoddard and Jente Moonen round out the top 7 positions. Matthias Piesens is still circulating, running in the 138s, but this is good training for Matthias. You know, rain is one of those things where you do find you have to get to understand it, as Tom Pappenberg having another bit of a drama, so Stig de Rademaker could be closing in for 2nd place as they come across the line. Lorenz de Kock has now extended that lead from 0.671 to 1.3 seconds. He's over doubled it. So Pappenberg will get another 20 points if he stays in 2nd position. The thing is that he will be if he gets 16 points, he'll still be comfortably ahead of Boris Maximov, who will round out the top 5 and effectively get 11 points. So what could happen is that 11, putting the number 30 on effectively 51 points. So you look at it from this perspective, all that Tom Pappenberg would need to do would be to finish comfortably in front. He just basically needs to finish in the top 3 either way and not have any dramas. As, oh, now someone's gone spinning out, and that is the number 99 of Matthias Piesens, who is trying to, well, looks to be getting out of the kart. And has decided to do so, because the minute you step out the kart, so the marshal now running to the scene and going to assist. So Matthias Piesens is out on the spot, unfortunately. So the number 99 will retire from the race. There's the number 10 of Jente Moonen, still running in 7th position. As that's an exploratory wide racing line going through turn 2, I must say. It just goes to show that these drivers are not adverse to driving in these weather conditions here. Keep your eyes on Tom Pappenberg. He's been closing hand over fist on onto Lorenz de Kock. So I wouldn't count out that 3rd victory, because we still have 3.5 minutes to go. Lorenz de Kock has started to drop off the pace ever so slightly in the last lap or so, 1 minute 24.563. And then Tom Pappenberg puts in a 1:23.3, so that's 1.2 seconds quicker. Stig de Rademaker rounding out the top 3 positions. He's put in the fastest lap of anybody, but then here comes Vic van Kampenhout, who's just done a 1:22.1 in these adverse wet weather conditions. There's Lucas Stoddard in the number 12, who comes across the line in 6th place with just under 3 minutes plus a lap still to go. But if I'm honest with you here, Tom Pappenberg put in a personal best on his previous lap, and then literally to the decimal point, Lorenz de Kock just went 9/10 quicker. So Lorenz de Kock, 1 minute 22.3. Tom Pappenberg, 1:23.2. Easy when you switch the numbers around like that. But we see the performance showcasing on the circuit itself. And just on these apexes, you get that little bit of adverse camber, and it creates like a pocket, if you will, to be able to. So when the weather comes down like it has done today, and it collects the water, it has done so significantly at this track. But at the moment, the way things are standing, Tom Pappenberg will have 70 points to his credit at the end of this race. Boris Maximov will have 51. Now, effectively, that is a 19-point advantage going into the final round, the final race later on today, because the grid from the pre-final sets up the grid for the final later on, as we're heading into the last 90 seconds of this race, plus one additional lap. So give or take, we'll probably have another 2, maybe 3 laps of racing. So we're on lap number 9 at the moment. So real shame for Mattis Piesens in the number 99, who came to a halt. Looks like there was probably a loss of traction. Then all of a sudden the cart decided to spin around. And Mattis Piesens decided, you know what? I'm good for now. I'm good for now. Let's just... I'm wondering if there might have been a technical issue. And that is Tom... Oh! Now that's drama and a half. Tom Pappenberg has just spun it. Oh, now this makes things interesting. Now, Tom Pappenberg has controlled proceedings in the dry yesterday. 2 victories and a pole position. But that... Oh, well... That sort of made things a little bit easier, let's say, because Boris Maximov now is in 4th position. Stig de Rademaker, Vic van Kampenhout, they now round out the top 3. Maximov rounds out the top 4. Pappenberg finds himself in 5th position. So that's 11 points. Boris Maximov, if he stays where he is, that'll be 13 points, putting him on 53. So Tom Pappenberg, oh, you know what that means. It goes down to the wire if it finishes right now, because the timer hit 0 half a minute ago. And Lorenz de Kock now coming under fire. Well, no, that's not Lorenz de Kock. That's Stig de Rademaker, as Vic van Kampenhout looks up the inside there on the number 79. This is the battle for 2nd position, because very shortly Lorenz de Kock will cross the line to take the final lap board. So these two battling away over the runner-up spot in this pre-final, and that weather has not abated. It has kept falling heavy. It's been uninterrupted, and oh, Vic van Kampenhout went for the move up the inside, and look, he's spun 180 degrees. Oh my goodness. The Rademaker, I have to give credit, kept it pinned. And this, oh, now look, oh no, dramas for both Maximov and Pappenberg on the final lap, and they're trying to get going. Oh my goodness me. You know what, I've got nothing to say. I really have got nothing to say about how much of a tale. It's a story of 2 sides. The chapters continued to be written, and now Pappenberg back up ahead of Maximov as they both went steamrolling into turn 2. It was a case of who was going to be brave. Sometimes you can be a bit foolhardy as well. But the final lap is about to come to its end. We will have a new winner in the BNL karting series, and also a new winner this weekend. The Pappenberg winning streak has been broken, and of all people, Lorenzo de Kock comes out of the final chicane and will take the checkered flag to take the victory here in the Micromax pre-final. I bet he never thought that one was going to come his way. Stig de Rademaker in 2nd position. Vic van Kampenhout in 3rd. 4th, it's Tom Pappenberg. Boris Maximov takes 5th at the stripe. With we just wait for Jens Moonen and Luca Storder to round out the top 7. But that has really changed things for the final later on this afternoon. I thought it was going to be a big gap, but there we go. There is Luca Storder just making sure he gets to the finish at the end of what's been an action-packed Minimax pre-final here on day 2. So there we go. Lorenz de Kock takes the victory by nearly 5 seconds at the end of the Minimax pre-final, which had dramas, thrills, spills and spinning to join the adverse weather conditions. Stig de Rademacher takes second. Big van Kampenhout takes third ahead of Tom Pappenberg, Boris Maximov, Jent de Munnen and Luca Stordo rounding out the top 7, with Matthijs Biersens unfortunately retiring on the 5th lap of that race here at Karting d'Espagne. Being provisioned. So effectively Tom Pappenberg so looking at it from this perspective, hypothetically Maximov needs to finish ahead of Pappenberg, but looking at the from this perspective, we have 8 drivers. So it's 25 for a win, 20 for second, 16 for third. So that's 9 points. So effectively, I'm looking at it from this perspective. Boris Maximov needs to finish in first at the next race, and he needs a miracle, effectively. So 12 points. He needs Tom Pappenberg to finish 6th or lower, and he takes the ticket to Le Mans. Right, well, let's get back into race mode, shall we? And this is going to be our third final, pre-final here today, which gets underway in just 3 minutes' time. Minimax. At the moment, Mateo Zdenkovic is the one. He's got one hand on that ticket to Le Mans at the minute. Number 196 from Bouvin Power. And also, there's a fellow friend within the Rotax family that needs a bit of a birthday shout-out. Herzlichen Glückwunsch zum Geburtstag, Andreas Martis. So, many happy returns to Andreas. Part of the team behind RMC Clubsport and RMC Germany. RMC Germany heads to Mulsanne in just a week's time for their second round. Short turnaround off the opening round at Wackersdorf just last weekend, funnily enough, which had plenty of sunshine. And as you can see, the rain is not stopping. I've had a report from So the weather continues to deluge here. And we head into the Minimax pre-final. Let's have a look at the 13 strong that managed to get sub 60 seconds in the dry, but obviously the wet weather conditions are going to be very, very different indeed. Mies Huben and Lawrence Herboz rounds out the top 4. Dave Stevens and Kaz Tobben, that's row 3. Tino Sidler and Mats van Rooyen round out the top 4 rows, with Jake Menton and Lawrence Lambers rounding out the top 10. Bringing up the rear in the 13 strong order, Ruben Verheyen and Mick Vandenberg and Thomas Verheyen rounding out the 13 strong. So we can only apologise if there are issues with the quality on the stream. These weather conditions are playing havoc with a lot of factors around here at the track, but which includes the racing. Main thing that we can do is just grin and bear it and give you as much of the racing action as we can here at Mariembourg. And again, the rain is still falling heavily. Firstly, I also do want to say a many happy returns to Andreas Matis, one of the organisers behind RMC Clubsport and Rotax Max Challenge Germany. So many happy returns to him. Rotax Max Challenge Germany head into their second round of the season after a quick turnaround from the opening round at Wackersdorf last week. They head to Müllersen in eastern Germany this coming weekend for their second of 4 rounds. So we'll be down to Radenkovic and Swiderski are on the front row. Now, Mies Huben doesn't need to win this event, as I keep on saying. So Swiderski has got to start fighting back, and he's got to start fighting back today. They say that the wet weather is a pretty good equaliser, and I'm sure that someone like Max Swiderski will revel in these conditions. So here we go, getting ready to go racing once again. This time it's Minimax, the penultimate race before the final one will decide who will get the international trophy ticket for Le Mans. Through the chicane, they are keeping us waiting and biding our time and to anticipate how the start is going to go. Into the tram lines they run, revs rise. And do the lights go out? It looks like they have done. We are off and racing. And Radenkovic gets a really good start at the moment as Mies Huben has made his way up into second place. What's happened to Max Swiderski? Because now Swiderski has got to start fighting. And I said that earlier before we went green, as it's nearly 3 abreast coming out of turn number 3. As Swiderski, one of multiple drivers going through that standing water puddle, coming out of turn 2. And it's all for themselves at the minute. 12 minutes and 33 seconds still to go, plus an additional lap on the clock. There is Radenkovic. Huben's got a really good turn of pace as well. It seems like the wet weather has been an equaliser for the 108 from GKS, as some drivers trying to find some purchase on this very slick and slippery tarmac. And the curbs are sometimes being a help. They're being a bit of a, as you can just see how much of a different racing line I've just seen. And this is why they're actually having to counter understeer on these corners, because sometimes you try and turn the car and you can see there Radenkovic straight away tried to pull to the right hand side, rotate the car in, and what was happening was that the car was nigh on understeering going through that corner. And that just shows you have to use a different mentality with wet weather racing. It's where a lot of people have plied their trades. And Radenkovic and Huben take the same racing line going through turn 3. Swiderski's trying to go for the remove on Lawrence Herboz through turn 2. And Swiderski has got the move done, but he's going to run wide coming out of 3. Manages to get the power down at the right possible moment to get through into the 90 left at turn 4. So This is going to develop over the next 11 minutes plus an additional lap. The battles are fast and frantic. Max Siderski still having to fight his way through the order. Well, he's down in 5th position again, but he's trying, as it looks like up the inside, there are several drivers trying to make the moves. Sticking one of which is Tino Sidler from Switzerland, as he's going for a brave one as the young Swiss driver. And that was up the inside of Lawrence Herabeau's Max Siderski trying to factor in. And you can see that they're either having to counter understeer or oversteer, depending on when they're pushing down the throttles. Sidler holding on to Herabeau's and stays there for the minute. Siderski is in the crossfire. Mats van Rooyen trying to factor in as Sidler gets passed by Herabeau's going into turn 1, but Sidler tries to get the count back. Oh, here comes Siderski. That's an absolutely inspired move and relatively cheeky too. He gets up the inside of Tino Sidler before they hit the apex of turn number 2, even though they might miss it by a country mile, and Siderski avoids that that standing water puddle, but oh, he's off the track. Siderski has gone rally crossing instead of staying on the tarmac. So Siderski's run for that international trophy ticket, I think, might have just been dealt that killer blow. It's not what he wanted. There's more dramas here. Sidler again looking up the inside of Lawrence Herabeau's in the 198. And that's through turn 6. And Mats van Rooyen is there. Jake Menson closing in, as is Lawrence Lambert. Sidler just throws it. He sends it up the inside and goes sideways. Sidler goes sideways after throwing it up the inside. And that was through turn 7. So Sidler used a good run and became nigh on a cropper on that one. As you can see now that Tino Sidler being pressurised for position. And that is from quite a few of those drivers. Mats van Rooyen has actually got past Tino Sidler to take P5. Mick Vandenberg all the way down 11th. Siderski down in 10th. But he's closing on the likes of Jake Menson, Lars Lambers and Thomas Verheyen. And Siderski using the skills that he has acquired over the years. Momentum is there. There is a change for the lead. Redankovic will not be worried about Huben, and the main reason being is that he's the one in prime position. You can just see that when Mies Huben goes through that chicane complex, he boots down the throttle, the back and steps out to the right-hand side, and he catches it nicely. He's got a real good feel for the conditions, as has Redankovic. Now Redankovic will have the run on Huben, going down the start-finish straight and in towards turn 1. You can see that the closing speed is starting to ramp up. He gets to within a kart length going into turn 1, but Huben stays ahead for the moment. Into the next right here at turn 2. And Redankovic, you can just see a little bit tighter than Mies Huben on that. Stickman uses the wide line inside of the 108 from GKS in the pre-final. So Huben knows he will want to battle more about points than it will be about a prize in terms of an international trophy ticket. But Mies Huben was absolutely dynamite at Adria about 6 weeks ago, well, 5 or 6 weeks ago. Here he's had a different track to deal with, and also the fact that the wet weather has now started giving a little bit of an equilibrium, an equaliser here at Mariembourg. 6 minutes and 10 seconds plus an additional lap still to go, and the battle for the lead split exactly by 0.2 of a second. Redankovic will look to keep that 100% success rate. He's got pole position today. He's got fastest lap in the first race, and on this particular occasion Mies Huben has got the 196's number, so to speak. Different line going through turn 4 there, because they're actually carrying some speed and going towards the outside. They're trying to avoid the inside pocket of standing water on the inside of turn number 4. So 5.5 minutes still remain, and Huben still keeping the rear axle of that 108 Minimax kart as wide as possible. They both go bumping over the curbs through the left-hander at turn 8 into the chicane here before the double right complex. That brings them on to the final chicane on the circuit here at Mariembourg. At the moment, Mies Huben is still keeping ahead of Matej Radenkovic. Radenkovic has got the fastest lap in his pocket. There's Taze Stevens a little bit further adrift, about 8.7 seconds behind. And then a little bit further back, you've got the likes of Mats van Rooyen, Laurens Herboz, Lars Lambers, who's got past Tino Sidler. Max Swiderski now finds himself behind Jake Menton, but he could have to watch out if Thomas Verheyen gets a good run. And Verheyen came out of the at this particular juncture. So three Dutch, 3 Belgian drivers in the top 6. Tino Sidler, the only Swiss driver, the only other nationality competing in this class, rounds out the top 7 ahead of Jake Menton and Max Swiderski, whose race has quite literally nigh on fallen 2 wheels off a cliff. But he's kept going. That's the main important thing to remember here. Max Swiderski has kept on going despite all the trials and tribulations. Thomas Verheyen rounds out the top 10. Mick van den Berg, Kaz Tobben and Ruben Verheyen round out the 13 strong, all still circulating. Huben and Radenkovic still covered by just over a 1/10.5 of a second. As here is the battle between the likes of Menton and Swiderski. Swiderski looking to go up the inside through turn 2. On Menton decides against it. He's got Mick van den Berg and Thomas Verheyen closing in. So fast approach the conclusion of the pre-final here at Mariembourg for Minimax, and at the moment Matej Radenkovic is looking pretty good right now, because the way things stand, Max Swiderski will effectively score, I think, 6 points, so putting him on 46. Radenkovic, look at it from this perspective, Radenkovic will have 70 points at the end of this race. This innings an effective with Matej Radenkovic, so effective going into the last couple of minutes. Mick van den Berg trying to get the slipstream on Max Swiderski going into turn 1. Van den Berg up the inside. Swiderski keeps it pinned round the outside, and if he gets that done, that's a brave one and then some. And Swiderski does get the job done there. You can see how wide he runs through turn 2. That's going to give an opportunity for Van den Berg to get past him, and Van den Berg just banzais him across the left-hand side of the circuit. He just goes, "Sorry, Max, I'm coming through." And you know what? You give a driver an invitation, you don't need to ask them twice to come through and do that kind of manoeuvre. So some good racecraft and good racing respect between Max Swiderski and Mick van den Berg. So Van den Berg now takes 9th position, and he's honing in on Jake Menton, who's only just fractionally ahead, and Menton keeps that kart as wide as possible at the back end of it, through into the next couple of left-handers they go. And they keep on going wide like that. That could open the door once again for Max Swiderski into the chicane. Just behind Swiderski is Thomas Verheyen. Into the last 45 seconds, plus an additional lap. This is going to be tight, but the top 2, Radenkovic now leading by 7.5 of a second ahead of Mies Huben, so the lead has changed in the meantime. And that effectively could secure Matej Radenkovic this weekend, provisionally speaking. So Radenkovic would be on a maximum score of 75 points. Mies Huben would be on 52, so that's a 23-point advantage for Radenkovic. So effectively he just needs to finish and he's done it. He can even cruise to 13th and still get that ticket, even if Huben wins the race. So Radenkovic has got the hard part of the weekend out of the way, effectively, as we're about to head on to the final lap of this race. And that will be it until later on. So timer has expired, and a bit of curb using there, and that was from, I think that was Laurens Herboz, if memory serves me correctly. I'm not too sure, but you can see that Tino Sidler is there. Laurens Herboz has dropped behind Lars Lambers in the dying stages. Final lap board is out, So Radenkovic extends his lead and puts in the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 19.4. Extends his lead over Mies Hooben to 1.162 seconds. Dave Stevens in third. Mats van Rooyen has got himself up into four. Bros completes the top six. Sidler, Menton, Vandenberg, Sidursky, Thomas Verheyen, Kaz Tobben and Ruben Verheyen rounding out the 13 strong as we are fast approaching the checkered flag to be waved. But it is close to being 3 for 3. He might have lost out the lead to Mies Hooben, but he's got it back. Matej Radenkovic, the youngster from the Bouvin Power Stable, comes out of the chicane for the final time. Lap number 11 will be in the books, and he's one step away from securing his place at Le Mans. Matej Radenkovic wins the Minimax pre-final here on day 2 at Mariembourg. Mies Hooben finishes in second, nearly a second and a half behind. Dave Stevens in third, Mats van Rooyen in fourth, as they start making their way towards the checkered flag for the penultimate time this weekend. So Dave Stevens confirmed in third place. And here we have a little bit of a battle here, and that's being led by Jake Menton. Lars Lambers beats Lawrence Herbols by just over 6/10. Sidler 7th. Jake Menton rounds out the top 8, finishing ahead of Mick Vandenberg, Max Sidursky. Oh, and breaking news, but it's not as bad as you think. There has been a 5-second time penalty added to Matej Radenkovic for 5 seconds for pushing. So effectively, that means that Mies Hooben will pick up the victory once the results have been amended accordingly. So, and Ruben Verheyen brings up the rear of the 13 strong. Matej Radenkovic wins on the road, but Mies Hooben takes victory. Once that is all said and done. So that is it for Minimax pre-final here at Mariembourg. So we now get things going with our penultimate race for DD2 and DD2 Masters here at Mariembourg in the second round of the championship for 2021. Let's have a look at the starting order for this 13-minute plus one additional lap encounter. So 2 poles in a row this weekend for DJ Liveris from Greece, who's got the reigning and defending champion from Belgium alongside Glenn Van Parijs. Paolo Besancenet in the 4:05 and Ragnar Virus in the 4:41. That's row number 2. But alongside them, David Maslakovic and Jordi Colin in the 4:55 and the 4:06, representing Poland and the Netherlands respectively. Mick Knowlton in the 4:03 and DD2 Masters pole sitter of the 5:44 of PKS Competitions. Rudy Champion, the current reigning and defending champion in that class, starts on row number 4. Zana Shriblak and Dan Zopfi round out the top 10. Kasper Bielecki and Karl Klibort, that's row number 6. Ahead of Yannick Gersens and Poland's Slavin Mimoransky. Henry Ayres starts 15th alongside will be the 4:10 of Yuri Klibort. Maxime de Higgs and then also Tom de Serre, that's the top 18. Completing the 22-strong grid, it's Christoph Adams in the 555, Bruno dos Santos in the 5:03, Jonathan Winmore in the 5:60, and Blitzai from Estonia in the 5:01. So again, as you can see, still plenty of standing water at this circuit, and the rain still coming down. The brollies are out. I'm sure that people are wearing their raincoats and wet weather boots, respectively. So at the moment, 1 win apiece between Glenn Van Parijs and DJ Liveris. They're on the front row of the grid. Rudy Champion's done the double so far this weekend in DD2 Masters. There's now being asked to slow down. There's Glenn Van Parijs just waiting. There is DJ Liveris just behind Paolo Besancenet, who will start on the inside of row number 2. Then after this, we've got Senior Road Tax and the top 36 who qualified after intermediate classification. Following the heats yesterday, will be back in action. So they have had a very, very lengthy wait. It's down to Liveris and Van Parijs to control the pace. Thing is that now just waiting for things to get a bit more into formation. That's a bit more like it there. Now start to slowly make the way out of the chicane. There is a straggler at the back of the field who is just about to come to the back of the grid. And there we go, into the tram lines. The revs do rise. Do we go? Lights out this time. It looks like it has been given as a green, well, as a start, as they're filtering their way down into turn 2 for the first time. As all, there's been a turnaround, spinning in the middle of turn 2, and everyone else ends up avoiding. Now I'm wondering whether that might have been probably Maslakovic or Bielecki. But we'll find out very soon as drivers getting a little bit caught out. I think that was Henry Ayres coming out of turn 3 a little bit squirrely and catches the standing water puddles on the right-hand side coming out of the exit. But DJ Liveris is in front, Glenn Van Parijs in second, as that looks to be Ragnar Virus. And I think, is that Mick Knowlton that's jumped his way up into 4th place? It looks to be the case there, as they come through into the final couple of sectors on the circuit here. That is Mick Knowlton. Now, Paolo Besancenet is right down towards the bottom part of the top 10. The Frenchman is quite clearly trying to do his level best to get back on level terms. Zana Shriblak is a couple of places ahead of the French driver, as that looks to be. Oh, and there's been a moment there, and one of the drivers, oh my goodness me, Zana Shriblak gets spun around. There was contact between him and another car, and Shriblak straight away, he is going to be absolutely furious. And if he gets that car up and running, all of a sudden the rest of the field have got to watch their back bumpers, because Shriblak will be charging forward. So Rudy Champion is at the sharper end of the grid, and he's It's got Paolo Bessonsny just behind. So Zana Shriblack has dropped all the way down to stone dead last on that particular occasion. It's a real shame for Zander because he made up a couple of positions already. And I think that might have been someone just getting a bit too heavy with the... well, I'm not too sure what happened there. It was more a case of drivers trying to make it 2 into 1, and 2 into 1 on a wet surface doesn't always pan out in the way you think it might do. Zana Shriblack has now got 17.8 seconds to make up to Bruno Dos Santos, and then he wants to get towards the sharp end of the grid. Effectively, at this moment, Zana Shriblack has about 28 seconds between himself and Liveris, who has started to initially pull away from Glenn Van Parijs to the tune of about 7/10 of a second in the first 2 laps of this race. There's different lines taken by Van Parijs and Liveris. Knowlton is up into P3, having started a little bit further down. Carl Clivot and Henry Ayres dropped down to 20th and 21st. Zana Shriblack on Q. Manages to get past the pair of them. Weather conditions can throw a little bit of a cat amongst the pigeons, let's say. So Jonathan Wimour now is in 15th. Has been passed by Yuri Collin and Tom de Serre. David Maslakovic, who was the one that had the spin around through turn 2 on the very first lap. As Kasper Bielecki being chased down by Rudy Champion. The 544 currently leading the standings. He took 2 victories yesterday, did Rudy Champion, and Clivot and Henry Ayres are out of the race, unfortunately, on the second racing lap. As we are fast approaching 4 minutes completed, just over 9 to go, plus 1 additional lap. After this, we will have senior road tax, and it'll be the top 36 for them. 3 drivers of which unable to make it through, as it looks like Glenn Van Parijs has made it past DJ Liveris and has gotten the lead on lap number 4. I did see a move from Van Parijs going up the inside of Liveris, going through into turn 4. And they have gotten away from Mick Knowlton to the tune of last time around. It was 4.1 seconds. So Knowlton sitting in 3rd place. That is Liveris. Now, where is Van Parijs? So Van Parijs will be coming out of the chicane very, very shortly indeed. There he is. And he's got a bit of a gap now. So Liveris has had a second in the final yesterday and won the pre-final. Van Parijs has just put in a 1 minute 13.1 in the wet, and it's just pulled away by the tune of about 1.2 seconds ahead of Liveris. But it has been a switch around, because you look at it from when they completed lap number 3, and the lap time speaks volume. A 1 minute 14.818 from Liveris. That is nearly 1.7 seconds off of the pace that Glenn Van Parijs is showing in the previous tour alone. So just there on your screens, it looks like there are probably going to be the likes of Slavomir Milansky, who's been he's not too far behind. That's going to be Maxime Derich there in the 499 from Sheepers Racing. You can see they're using the curb to try and carry the momentum through, but also to stop the carts a little bit more. In these wet weather conditions, those curbs can be rather slick, and you can just see that when they come into the final double right-hander complex, that's a bit of a run wide there from Slavomir Milansky. He manages to get the power down, and again uses the curb to control the cart, and a bit sideways there. The back right rear starts stepping out to the right-hand side for Yuri Collin. And Collin now trying to go up the inside of Milansky. Now, this is not in the same respective class. Collin and Milansky. We've got another Zana Shriblack has got his way past Pritzai, and about 1.4 seconds up the road from him is Christoph Adams. So Zana Shriblack is now probably not going to be very happy about what happened early on in the race, with the contact that he was on the receiving end of, I believe. I can't remember which driver that was, but it was rather sudden that sometimes you get that slight little clip, and especially in wet weather conditions like these, you can get turned around rather easily. And here are two Frenchmen on the track. Rudy Champion, who finds himself now in 4th place, because Kasper Bielecki, I just saw going into pit lane. So I'm wondering whether there was a drama for the Polish driver, who now has actually rejoined the circuit and had to keep to the left-hand side, not go over the white line, because otherwise that is effectively a faux pas, so to speak. Shriblack's got past Adams, and Shriblack is currently running in the 1:13s. Now he's only 2.1 seconds behind Bruno Dos Santos, and Dos Santos did a 1:16.4, so within the best part of probably half a lap, I would imagine that Zana Shriblack will have his way up into 17th place. And there is Ragnar Virus, and that is the 4:06 of Roddy Gollan, who's now got past for position. So that effectively will be for, I would say that's going to be 7th, because Van Parijs has crossed the line. He's got a 4.4 second advantage over DJ Liverdis. Nick Knowlton 3rd, Paulo Basson-Sinet, Rudy Champion, who leads DD2 Masters in 5th. And I was right, it was, well, actually, Yannick Gustens is up into 6th, Yori Collin up into 7th, ahead of Ragnar Virus. Kasper Bielecki has dropped down the order again. Zana Shriblack has now got his way past Dan Zopfi and also Bruno Dos Santos. Glenn Van Parijs has got the fastest lap of anybody, and he's pulled a gap of now 4.4 seconds in total over DJ Liverdis. And you can see a bit of fisticuffs there between. That is, Zana Shriblack. Now, is that Tom Dessert that I've just seen? That looks to be the case. So the 5:30 on DD2. He's one of the most recent drivers in BNL Karting Series history to win not just the 2019. He's won to bring to the party, and again he's going to make another overtake. That's Zander of old right there, and you can see just how getting past drivers. I would think that's actually Jordi Klibort that he got past, so my apologies to Tom Dessert there, who currently runs in 11th place. But Zana Shriblack, with 2.5 minutes remaining, has got himself up from 22nd after that incident earlier on. He's now up 8 places, up to P14. So an inspired drive by the racer from Genk. So how much quicker can he go? Well, Kasper Bielecki is going to find it. This as the pair go side by side. Maslakovic gets up the inside to take 9th place. And here comes Tom Dessert in the 5:30. And Van Parijs is deciding that this is like... I'm just trying to remember what time it is. Well, at the end of the day, it is like a wet Sunday afternoon's drive in the countryside. That's effectively what we've got here. 90 seconds plus an additional lap still to go on the clock, and Van Parijs still leads, but now his gap between him and DJ Liverdis from Greece is now 5.91. Put our weekend classification by just effectively 1 point ahead of DJ Liverdis, going into the final race of the weekend a little bit later on. DD2 and DD2 Masters will be out at about 3 o'clock local time. Will continue to consolidate an extensive points lead here at Cartine d'Espagne for the second round of the championship. And there we go. Final lap board is out. Lap number 12 we go on to. And it has been pretty much, it was initially that Liveris got away from Van Parijs, but Van Parijs managed to get past Liveris and has left him in along with the tumbleweed, so to speak. Liveris, however, has put in his personal best, a 1 minute 12.788, but in the wet, Glenn Van Parijs just looks to be on another level. And when you consider about the fact that Liveris has raced over in continental Europe for a number of years, up until obviously COVID-19 had put paid to his plans what were going to happen in 2020, and obviously his studies. University studies have taken a bit more of a precedence, but Glenn Van Parijs has done exactly what he needs to do. He's just stayed out front, he's controlled proceedings, he's not looked back, and he's just decided, well, that's going to be good enough for me. I'd love to, he would have loved to have taken both victories yesterday. There's going to be 2-1 advantage Glenn Van Parijs here for the weekend result, because he comes out of the final chicane and comfortably takes the checkered flag, fist pumping the air with his right hand, knowing that he has done the job. Liveris comes across the line nearly 5.5 seconds behind in second position. Mick Knowlton rounds out the top three. Paolo Besancone from France completes the top four ahead of Yori Collin. And also it's a provisional third victory for France's Rudy Champion from Piquet's Competition, who actually finishes in 6th place at the end of that race. Well done to Rudy. Yannick Goossens in 7th. A good charge back from Slavomir Moransky. Difficult qualifying, but he managed to finish P8 on the road. David Maslakovic makes it another Polish driver in the top 10. And good to see that Ragnar Vidas keeps himself in the top 10, just a little bit ahead, by about 2.4 seconds ahead of Tom Dessert, who rounds out the top 3 in DD2 Masters. Kasper Bielecki in 12th ahead of Sander Schublak, who recovered to finish 13th. Maxime Deriche rounds out the top 14 ahead of the 560 of DD2 Masters driver Jonathan Wimore from France. Dan Zotfi in 16th ahead of Bruno Dos Santos in the 503, with the 2 DD2 Masters drivers of the 555 of Christoph Adams and 501 of Estonia's Pritsai rounding out the 19 that finished the full 12 laps. Unfortunately, Yuri Klebot retired on lap number 8 of the race, with Carl Klebot and Henry Ayres retiring on lap number 2. ready to go racing. So, intermediate classification, it was Paul Fokkemaa that put his 312 Suddikat on pole position. Alongside will be Max Stemmerdink in the 321 from the Netherlands. Lachlan Robinson from the UAE and Luca Leistra from Belgium, row 2. Milan Koppens and Justin Polman representing Belgium and the Netherlands, row 3. Hugo Arendi from Estonia and the Netherlands, Baz Janssen, row 4. Turkey's Erhard Turka and the last two drivers, Belgium with the 3 on Zagardi. The 36 strong grid, getting ready to go into battle for 13 minutes plus an addition. That will be dessert a little bit later on, as Senior Rotax will close out the weekend's action here at Mariembourg. And then on the 9th and 10th of October this year, we head back to the home of champions, where it all started earlier on this year in March, late March, for the BNL Karting Series kickoff. Grand finals at the Bahrain International Cup. Rather hand weaving ahead of getting, looks to be the case. So the first coming out wide to try and carry the momentum through. So Robinson drops to 4th place. The Fokkemaa rounding out the top 2. It looks like that to get past, I believe, or is that maybe? That won't be Justin Polman, that will be one of the JJ Racing carts, so that would be more than likely Flinch during that good his intentions, but it's at the moment it is Stemmerdink that's leading the way. Leistra butchers up the inside of Robinson, and that's for P4 on the road. Robinson's got Milan Koppens for close company, as there has been a little bit of a turnaround. I saw one kart facing the wrong way coming through into the final chicane, so you can just see the different ways of which Leistra just, well, that was, hang on, that's Milan Koppens. So Luca Leistra's dropped down to 6th. So Max Stemmerdink leads the pre-final. Milan Koppens in 2nd. Paul Fokkemaa, Sean Butcher, Lachlan Robinson, Luca Leistra. Leistra now is being closed in on by Dylan LaHaye, as I think there might have been a move that's just happened. And Butcher has got past Fokkemaa for P3. And LaHaye, in the meantime, has got past Lachlan Robinson. I think I might have just seen to do so. He's from J4 at the moment. Anything can happen. Clementine Benoit, rather not hesitant, but I think there is a little bit of apprehension, as now Koppens tries to go side pod to side pod, gets past Stemmerdink. Sean Butcher is closing in at a comfortable rate of knots. Dylan LaHaye rounds out the top 4. Lachlan Robinson in 5th place, and it looks like he has dropped the likes of Fokkemaa, and has dropped Fokkemaa to the tune of nearly 1.3 seconds. That is one of the, still the 90 left at turn 4, but on that particular occasion decides to wait until he gets into 5 and 6, and this is where he can go for it. Koppens tries to banzai up the inside. Stemmerdink runs a little bit wide, and Sean Butcher's trying to get past LaHaye, who has stolen 3rd position off of him in the process. But LaHaye is not satisfied with 3rd place. He wants that victory. We've seen it before from Dylan LaHaye, that when you get him on fire, kept up. Just under 8 minutes to go, and here goes LaHaye up the inside of Stemmerdink for turn number 1 for P2, but Stemmerdink's trying to keep it planted around the outside. LaHaye to the inside. Stemmerdink runs a little bit wide. That's going to open the door for Sean Butcher, but in the meantime Lachlan Robinson has closed in. LaHaye is the fastest driver out on the circuit, but Lachlan Robinson is closing in on the quartet ahead, as Robinson now tries to do his level best. Sean Butcher tries to go up the inside of Max Stemmerdink through turn 4 and gets the job done. Nice and clean from the Australian, living out of London in the United Kingdom, but he runs under a UK licence. And now Lachlan Robinson, he fancies a piece of the action too, does the 17-year-old based out of Dubai. And the good thing is, Robinson and Butcher are good teammates and also good friends off track, as there goes the move for P3. Butcher up the inside of Stemmerdink. Robinson will wait for his chance. And coming out of the chicane, he could get a chance to do so. Robinson has been on an incredible steep learning curve, and that's a great move up the inside of Max Stemmerding. Robinson saw the gap was opening, and he went, I can squeeze through that gap. And I think Lachlan Robinson could have even put a bust through that gap if he tried. And now, slightly different line there from Sean Butcher. Goes wide to turn one, and then cuts on through. And that's a pretty good racing line to have there, because that really gives you a good purchase. Forkemat is in the wars at the moment, really well and truly. Flint Schuring, Christian Leclerc, Luca Lystra are battling with the 312, who started on pole position. So it has been a race to forget. Alexander Vermeulen has also had a race to forget. He and Clémentine Benoit become two of the 36 drivers that have now retired. Lara Zanian up into 18th past Jordi van der Eyck. Buzz Janssen drops to 15th behind the likes of Beer Dodderstein, Sam Van Til, Nick Coppens and Arthur Horsch, who round out 11th to 14th on the running order as such. Luca Lystra has now got past Paul Forkemat for what is 6th position, and is now about 1.6 seconds behind Max Stemmerding, who rounds out the top 5. Well, that gap looks to be decreasing, as there is Lystra, there's Forkemat, there's Flint Schuring looking to go up the inside, a bit of a different line taken by Forkemat, who gets literally a lot of understeer going into the right-hander that brings them onto the final chicane complex here. As you can see, drivers struggling for traction. Ehad Turker getting a bit of understeer going into the right-hander, someone going sideways a little bit further down the order. Looks to be either Gilles Clouet or Yasharam Jank. It might have been Gilles Clouet that went a bit sideways going into that right-hander. But with just over 5 minutes to go, Dylan LaHaye hits the front of the field. He's ahead of Milan Coppens. Sean Butcher rounds out the top 3. Lachlan Robinson in 4th. Max Stemmerding in 5th. Luca Lystra, Paul Forkemat, Flint Schuring, Danny Prince and Beer Dodderstein round out the top 10. Christian Klein drops down into 13th position behind the likes of Sam Van Til and Nick Coppens. So Robinson is currently in 4th position. He's ahead of Max Stemmerding, but there is the fast closing Luca Lystra, the 307 from Belgium, who out of the top 5 that was rounded out by Robinson. So it was Lystra, Butcher and Robinson that came through into this round. There were 11 points adrift. So no Callum Bradshaw, no Mark Kimber this weekend here in Mariembourg. And they were the top 3 in the standings coming into this round, effectively with not having Butcher or Kimber here. As there is the move on Max Stemmerding by Luca Lystra. Going through into turn 2, nicely done by the 307 that now takes 5th place. And next up on his list will be the 316 of Lachlan Robinson, representing the United Arab Emirates. Yashram Jankan has dropped. Oh, Ram Jankan is out and in. Well, he's in the gravel. He's trying to pull the cart on his own, on his Todd. Marshall trying to assist, but Yashram Jankan from Dams Racing gets the cart onto the wet grass, and that's not easy to push in these wet weather conditions. I think that could be it. Done and dusted. Yellow flags waving in that right-hander, so that's not going to give an opportunity for the likes of Sean Butcher to pass Milan Coppens if he got the chance, if he was close enough. And it'll be the same for Luca Lystra, because he will have to wait, and that is it. Unfortunately, Yashram Jankan's pre-final here in Mariembourg is over, I'm afraid. So we head into the last 3 minutes, and Sean Butcher has been closing in on Milan Coppens. He took the best part of nearly 0.2 of a second. They go nearly side by side through the exit of turn 2 for 2nd place on the road. Butcher will wait and abide his time. Lystra in the meantime is closing in on Robinson, but Robinson has been setting Lystra. So Ram Jankan's race was over the minute the marshal started using the claw assist to pull the cart out of harm's way. Butcher is just waiting for his time to strike. He's not going to close in on Dylan LaHaye, but this will help his championship no end by getting a solid result. Obviously, throttle cable problems gave the Australian based out of London a bit of a drama in the first race, where he managed to get it, limp it back to the checkered flag, but ended up having his worst result this season in the heat side of things, as Lachlan Robinson looks to be on his own a little bit more now, because Luca Lystra, I think, has just dropped off the back of him. Now I'm wondering, is there an issue for Lystra? I'm not too sure. Well, Lystra is now 1.2 seconds behind, and Robinson did a 1 minute 12.8, his fastest lap in this race so far. Lystra a 1 minute 13.5 at nigh on. So it has been swings and roundabouts so far today, as it looks like things have cleared up a little bit. There is a the rain doesn't look to be falling now, because you can see that the wet weather tyres, the Mojo W5s, are doing their job there. So there is effectively a dry line of some description. It won't be completely bone dry, but it will be a little bit easier for the drivers to navigate their way around the circuit, but also gives them a chance to explore new racing lines around the track itself. Just under 60 seconds to go. We've got a battle here, and that will be including Max Stemmerink, who started from pole, now finds himself in 6th. And just behind him is Flint Schuring, then Paul Fokema. Danny Prince in the number 303 from Bums Racing rounds out the top 9, with Nick Coppens also from the same morning completing the top 10. LaHaye has powered away into the distance. 1 minute 12.5 was his previous lap time. You know, Coppens a 1 minute 13.4, so Coppens just residing himself maybe to second, maybe to third, as here comes Fokema. Trying to look up the inside of Flint Schuring. Schuring drifts wide through turn 2, and that opens the door for the 312 from France to get through. Just over 10 seconds on the clock remaining, and we're effectively on the penultimate lap of this race. Ehad Turker gets past Christian de Klein for 16th position. The top 15 score points towards their championship. So if you are 16th, unfortunately for Ehad Turker, he's about 2.4 seconds behind Lars Zanen and won't pick up any points in this race. So the timer has now officially expired. There is Dylan LaHaye after this lap. One more to go, and he'll be on his way to pick up a welcome victory. So through the chicane comes the 328 from GKS. Sean Butcher's got past Milan Coppens. Butcher was waiting, he bided his time and he got the job done. Last lap board is out, so now Milan Coppens gets the hurry up sign effectively, and he is just over 3/10 behind Sean Butcher as they cross the line for the penultimate time. And going through turn 2, there is LaHaye. I'm more interested in what's happening between Butcher and Coppens, and Coppens has lost a little bit of time coming out of turn 2. LaHaye into the 90 left at 4 for the final time on lap number 12. Christian de Klein has dropped all the way down to 19th ahead of Jordi van der Eyck in the 390. Paul Fokema ahead of Flint Schuring. Lars Zanen up to 14th ahead of Bas Janssen. Victor Plateau and Christian Kremers, Kevin Kremers get up into 17th and 18th respectively. Kobe de Bruyker and Scott Westhovens seem to be doing a fairly decent job, up into 22nd and 23rd. So there are 2nd and 3rd there. Lachlan Robinson has kept himself in good competitive performance here this weekend. First time he's ever been in this track, and he's done it. He's raced in it in both the wet and the dry. But Dylan LaHaye does the old cheeky army-style salute there to some of his mates from GKS Lemons Power, and takes the victory by 3.3 seconds. Milan Coppens in 3rd place ahead of Lachlan Robinson, with Luca Lystra making it 3 out of the top 5 being from Belgium. Max Stemmerink in 6th ahead of Flint Schuring. A real shame for Stemmerink, who started on the front row alongside Paul Fokema. But Flint Schuring would be sandwiched in between the pair, and Schuring in the 323, finishing in 7th place. Danny Prince in 9th, Nick Coppens in 10th, Sam Van Til, Arthur Horsch, Beard Dorrestein, Lars Zanen, Bas Janssen, Ehad Turker, Victor Plateau, Kevin Kremers, Christian de Klein, Jordi van der Eyck, Hugo Arendi, Kobe de Bruyker, Scott Westhovens, Sam Bergstein, Mario Sidler, Justin Pullman, Gilles Chloé, Devin Sagadi, Remco Bahn, Colin van Lammeren, Adrian Labuda and Bart de Witt rounded out the 32 that finished. Yori Schoens unfortunately retiring with 2 laps to go. Yashram Jankan out on lap 6. Alexander Vermeulen on lap 2, and Clémentine Benoit unfortunately not making it past the first lap.
Ja,